This video is sponsored by Normandy 1998, 212th Trooper, Sylar 1610, Carmen CJ, Rune Scribble, Kids of the Kitsune, Blood Down, Papa Podo, and Team Valor, and brought to you by Papa Podo who requested this topic. If there is a video you want me to make, just head over to Patreon and become a channel member, and select the Pickle Producer tier, since among other benefits, you'll get to make a video request every month, be it the continuation of an existing series or a brand new story. Now, before we get into today's story, I just want to ask you to do me a favor. Hit that like button since it tells YouTube you enjoy what I do, and check whether you're subscribed, since only about a quarter of my viewers are, and it's a free way to keep up to date with all my content. In return, I'll do all I can to keep making regular quality content for you. Thanks, and let's hop in. Hey everyone, happy St. Patrick's Day. For this holiday, I've been asked to take a crack at my own version of a sequel to the Leprechaun films. For anyone unfamiliar with the franchise, it's a series of horror comedy films made in the 90s and early 2000s, featuring an evil leprechaun often on the hunt for his gold in some form or another, with us taking him to Vegas, space, and even the hood. Twice. Since the franchise is no stranger to seeking the leprechaun in new locations, I thought I'd set this movie in the place St. Patrick presumably sent all the snakes after driving them out of Ireland. Australia. That's right, this time our guy in green is heading to my homeland. So sit down, strap in, and get ready for Leprechaun Down Under. We open in America, in the midst of an airport lounge during the usual hustle and bustle of boarding time, and it is here that we meet the first of our group of protagonists, Brad. Brad is the kind of man who discovers he's 8% something and instantly believes that it's his birthright, his destiny, and that he has a deep connection to it that makes him knowledgeable. In this case, it is his Australian heritage, as presently, he is saying goodbye to his parents, while patting his jacket pocket as if to confirm that he still has that velvet pouch. Inside it is a heavy gold coin, allegedly passed down from his great-great-grandfather who struck it big during the Australian gold rush. And while Brad is not particularly rich, he is extremely proud of this coin, which he will now carry with him to the old country. At his side, his older sister Erin attempts to hold back a derisive snort just as she must every time he mentions the old country. As the sharper and more observant of the siblings, she knows it is her job to keep Brad from falling down a mineshaft and breaking his neck, though in spite of this onerous task, she is also genuinely excited to see the goldfields, though in her case the interest is more because she likes history, not because she needs to cosplay ancestry. And then there is Tiffany, with an O, like chiffon. She is filming an airport reel titled, "We're Going Down Under," and correcting strangers in the spelling of her name, despite no one asking. As Brad's girlfriend, she had refused to miss out on this chance to make an amazing travel video that her audience will love. An audience admittedly only in the double digits, though she carries herself with the confidence of someone with subscribers in the millions. As the trio say their goodbyes and board the plane for the long flight across the world, Erin begins to ask logistical questions, since while Brad insisted on handling everything, she'd rather know in advance if they have a place to sleep. Confidently, Brad explains that not only has he hooked them up with great accommodations, but he's also done his research and hired them a highly rated tour service to show them around, run by a local operator. Meanwhile, over in Australia, we meet our so-called local operator, Gav. Presently, he is staring at his phone like it has just informed him that he's won the lottery. Someone has booked the website. Not a bot, not spam, but a real tourist with money. Looks like all that bot farming finally paid off. For his part, Gav is a small-time grifter with a million schemes, or as he calls them, hustles, who believes he's just one good break away from becoming a legitimate businessman. Seated on either side of the couch with him are his two housemates, Damo, the lovable goof who is immediately excited for Gav's success, and Jono, the more grounded and practical member of the trio. While Jono is also happy for Gav, he has a feeling he knows what's coming next, with this being proven right almost immediately, when Gav explains that hosting a multi-day tour is a big thing, so he needs his mates to help him out. As ever, Damo is up for anything, while Jono is initially hesitant, But when Gav points out this could be his big break and that he might even be able to contribute more to the house, Jono relents, since loyalty to a friend beats good judgment every time in his book. And so is that the guys spend the rest of the day cleaning Gav's rusty old ute, planning a couple of places to show the Americans, and rehearsing some professional-sounding lines before heading to the airport the next morning. As soon as the two groups meet at the luggage carousel, the vibes clash immediately, as Gav goes into full obsequious weasel mode, offering to get the client's bags, while Tiffany introduces herself with the "with an O" explanation. Unable to help himself, Damo leans in and whispers to Jono, repeating Tiff's words while attempting a truly terrible American accent. A moment later, Jono joins in, with the pair competing to see who can do their best with an O, until they each feel a hand clasp on their shoulders, as Aaron leans in and smilingly points out that both Jono and Damo literally end in O, with this being enough to shut them up. Thankfully, she doesn't seem overly mad, even sharing a faint smile with Jono before the group of 6 pile into the ute, as Gav begins driving, not towards the hotel, but instead out of town, since there's a great bushwalking track about 40 minutes up the road. However, before they go, they do need to make one brief pit stop, as when Tiffany starts complaining about the heat, Gav slips into tour guide mode, offering to pop into a gas station, or as they call it here, a servo. Liking the sound of that since it sounds very rugged. Brad agrees, with Gav's ute pulling in, as he and Brad head inside to grab some water and ice creams. As they do, Brad finds himself once more delighted by Australia, as when Gav pulls out a series of golden $1 and $2 coins to pay for the drinks and snacks, the American cannot help himself, as in his best Crocodile Dundee impression he grins, "That's not a coin, this is a coin," while slapping the heirloom gold onto the counter. As he pulls his hand away, we see the coin properly for the first time, specifically the shamrock engraving in the old mint stamp. Meanwhile, in an abandoned gold rush mine, a tremor runs through the dirt, and a clawed hand framed by a green sleeve pushes through the earth, as the leprechaun awakens. As he does, he inhales slightly and smiles. "Back on the soil, back in the sun, and back with me gold, ye thieving son." Naturally, a tremor of this nature does not go unnoticed for long, with the heritage caretaker soon stumbling into the tunnel. At first he assumes the leprechaun is a child here causing mischief, though when he protests that the mine is off limits, the little gremlin grins that he can surely show the man off limbits, before scuttling over and biting down on his ankle. Back with the humans, they're in the ute once again. This time Damo is driving so Gav can sit in the back and chat with Brad, who he has become noticeably more chummy with, listening with interest as the young man shows off his coin and talks about being 1/16 Australian on his mother's side. While Jono takes this as simple brown-nosing to earn a bigger tip, there is something more in Gav's eyes as he examines the coin and states there's a goldfield a bit further past the bushwalking trail, so they could head there later if Brad and his companions want. Helpfully, Damo adds that he remembers going there in primary school, how the old gold stamp was so big and loud that half the kids left with headaches, with Aaron being genuinely surprised but interested it was still operational after all this time. Not long after this, they arrive at the trail, where at first they are observed from a low angle through shrubbery, with the POV seeming more interested in their bags than the people themselves. Though when they begin making their way under the tree cover and the camera returns to normal, Gav jogs his way past the group and volunteers to scout up ahead. As he does, he shoots Damo a wink that the latter understands perfectly, so that when Tiffany predictably asks what he's scouting for, Damo lowers his voice and whispers, "Drop bears." As one, the Americans lean in, asking what they are, with Damo explaining how they're a highly territorial breed of koala that hangs from trees and drops down when people are least expecting it. At these words, something heavy falls from the tree line with a heavy thump, letting out a roar as it lands in the clearing. Letting out yelps, Brad and Tiff look ready to jump out of their skins, though as the figure stands up, it's revealed to be Gav, who is laughing heartily along with his two mates as he teasingly welcomes the Yanks to Australia. As the shock wears off, the Americans join in on the laughter, though no one comes close to Deimos, to the point where tears are streaming down his face, and he tells the others to go on without him since he laughed so much he needs to take a leak. Stepping away from the others, he remains blissfully unaware of the faint rustling in the tree line above him, instead being quite literally caught with his pants down, as when he stops to pee, something small and hairy drops from the canopy. For a second he panics, fearing a real drop bear, though the truth is far worse, as with the gleeful rhyme about being the Dropricon, the little monster in green snaps his neck, leaving him to hit the ground dead. Briefly, the leprechaun rummages through Deimos' pockets, though when his search comes up empty, he vanishes from view again, just as the other humans arrive having heard the thump of their friend falling. They is met by a mix of screams and shocked silences, with Jono wanting to go to town and report it, though in contrast, Gav downplays it, suggesting it could have been a fall or wildlife, and all getting the cops involved will do is ruin their new friend's holiday, as they'll be stuck filling out reports, so it's better if they go somewhere quiet and clear their heads while they figure out what to do. Reluctantly, Jono, Brad, Tiffany, and Aaron agree, though as they make their way back to the ute, Aaron asks if Jono's okay, since she could see he and Deimo were close. Still in a state of disbelief, Jono just nods, but when they climb back in, he chooses to sit beside her. As it turns out, Gav's idea of a quiet spot is a small beach cove known to locals, with Tiffany deeming this place perfect to get some swimming pics and B-roll for a travel video. In a tired voice, Jono points out the no swimming signs and the shark net in the mouth of the cove, though grinning that no one's around so they won't get in trouble. Tiff makes her way into the water while Brad films. For a minute this seems like harmless fun, with Tiffany posing and trying to drag Gav or Jono in to tell her viewers about their authentic Australian oasis, though unbeknownst to anyone, the leprechaun is also here, spying on them from the water. Seeing another chance to strike, he cackles a little rhyme about how one so pretty and dumb will find better use as feed and chum, before using his powers to split a hole in the net, so that a moment later, a shark emerges behind Tiff, leading to a death worthy of Jaws, if Jaws was made for $20 and a packet of smokes. From the beach, everyone is horrified, none more so than Brad, though as Erin runs in to pull her little brother away from the shark-filled waters, she notices something funny in the corner of his footage. Urgently, she summons the others, while asking Brad to replay it, and good to her hunch, the remaining four spot a little green man tearing a hole in the shark net. Looking at where it'd been, the humans find the space blank, though when they turn around to leave, he is standing right behind them, an impish grin on his face as he cackles that was fun, but now he wants his coin back from that thieving man's son. Bluntly, Jono asks what the hell this little dude's on about, and still smiling wickedly, the leprechaun recounts how years and years ago during the gold rush, Brad and Aaron's ancestor didn't find a rich vein of gold, he found his pot of gold and swiped a coin from it. Since then, he's been trapped, but now that it's back on Australian soil, he is awake once more, and needs it back so he can reclaim his full power. So they can choose, give it to him, or he'll pick them off one by one until he gets back what's his. Knowing this must be the heirloom coin, Aaron snaps at Brad to just give it to him before he hurts anyone else. Though in his usual Brad way, Brad refuses, snapping this little goblin killed Tiffany, so he's not giving him anything. And besides, it's his coin now. Plainly, this is the wrong answer, as the leprechaun wastes no time raising a finger so that Brad's phone erupts in flame, before evidently planning to do something similar to him and his sister. Spotting this, and that Gav is frozen, while his eyes dart between Brad the leprechaun and the pocket where he knows the coin is, Jono leaps into action, grabbing Gav's rusted tire iron from the back of the ute and swinging it like he's batting at the ashes. At once, the leprechaun goes flying several feet into the air, while steam hisses from the point of impact, and as he lands, he curses about iron and how the lad will pay for that. Unfortunately, he is not the only one, as when the tire iron snaps in half from the impact because it is old and cheap, Gav barks at him that he owes him a new one, though snapping back at his mate to shut up since he just saved his life. Jono beckons the others to get in the truck, since that won't stop the little bugger forever. Tearing off with a screech, Jono instructs the siblings to search Gav's toolbox for anything else made of iron, since that seemed to hurt the leprechaun. However, as in every other area of his life, Gav is a disappointment, having pawned anything decent for smoker money ages ago. However, he does suggest that maybe there's some iron up in the gold field, since they made all kinds of old-timey shit out of iron. And beside, the leprechaun said that's where all this started, so maybe that's where it needs to end. Seeing the sense in this, Jono takes off towards the gold field, with it coming as a slight surprise that no one's on duty here. Nonetheless, the final four are quick to hop out and split up to look for iron, with Erin insisting on keeping Brad with her, while Jono heads towards what looks to be the front office, and Gav wanders towards the main mine shaft while lighting up a cigarette. As he does, he gently calls out, stating he knows the leprechaun's here, so come on out, since he wants to make a deal. Eyes glinting from out of the shaft, the malefic fake claims that he's listening, with Gav grinning that if he doesn't mind his saying, his little green mate's going about this all wrong, scaring the little shits will only make them cling tighter to their coin. That's why you gotta finesse it and sweet talk 'em. And lucky for him, he, Gav, is the best in the business when it comes to that. So why not let him get that coin for him and they can part as mates? Head tilting in interest, the leprechaun asks what Gav might be expecting in return for this, since a deal usually implies payment. To which the human smiles. The leprechaun looks like a fellow with rather deep pockets, so he's sure he could make it worth his while. Chuckling slightly under his breath, the cheeky spirit nods that yes, he has deep pockets indeed. Would he like to see? Grinning hungrily now, Gav agrees that he would, and at the leprechaun's beckoning follows him down into the tunnel, paying no heed to the rusty sign as he steps over it that reads, Danger, Gah. As they descend deeper, the leprechaun merrily mutters a limerick about deep pockets, before finally gesturing down the tunnel, with Gav taking this to mean his payment is inside. However, due to no lights hanging above this particular corridor, it is hard to see, forcing him to wade in. As he does, he spots no sign of treasure or gold, and so grumbles the little shit better not be trying to stiff him, though chuckling, the leprechaun affably retorts that he just can't see it, so maybe he needs a light. At these words, Gav hears a familiar click behind him, and turning back, he sees the leprechaun holding his lighter. Then, with the tip of his hat, he tosses it towards the man. Back on the surface, the others all hear the explosion as a gas pocket goes up, and knowing this must be the leprechaun's doing, Jono runs to join Aaron and Brad in what turns out to be the Stamper building. At once he spots the same thing as Aaron and Brad, the heavy iron machinery, with this giving him an idea worthy of Gav, as he states that he might have a way to kill the leprechaun, but he needs Brad's coin to do it. Reflexively, Brad attempts to refuse, though when Aaron meets his eyes, it is not with a demand, but a request, as she sighs that she's not going to try and force him to give it up, since she sees the coin's important to him, but she also knows that if this keeps up, they're both going to die, since while Jono can run if he wants, she's not leaving her little brother to be killed by some monster. This at last seems to get through to Brad, as for all his entitlement, he is at least still good at heart, and so agrees to part with the coin for Aaron's sake. A short while later, another bang rings through the heritage site, as the leprechaun kicks in the door and demands the remaining trio give up his coin. From a catwalk up above, Jono calls out that they've decided he can have it if he lets them live, pointing to a tray on the conveyor belt where the coin is laid out. Unfortunately, this is too clean, too easy for a centuries-old trickster, and so smelling a trap, he looks around, clocking the lever hidden behind Jono that must no doubt do something nasty. Cackling that it was a good try, he orders the boy to come down here where he can see his hands, also instructing Erin to come out from her hiding place, since she's going to be fetching his coin, as the others will not risk her life by springing a trap. Recognizing the bind they're in, Erin complies, climbing over the conveyor belt and taking a few wobbling steps as she passes under the massive stamper. Then, when she has it, she hops down and returns towards him. But then, at the last second, she drops it, with the coin rolling perfectly beneath the iron press. Unable to resist when he's so close, the leprechaun lunges greedily, With this being exactly what Erin was banking on, as yelling for the guys to do it now, she leaps out of the way, allowing Jono to step in and boot the leprechaun fully into position, while Brad, who the monster had forgotten about, emerges from the shadows and slams the lever. At once, the stamper crashes down on top of the leprechaun, as in a burst of steam, he expires, taking his coin with him and leaving only his clothes when the stamper rises once more. Relieved that this nightmare is finally over, and wanting to get away from the banging before they draw the attention of any authorities, Jono and Erin run outside and embrace, hardly able to believe what they've just seen. Well, not long after, Brad joins them, his hands in his jacket pockets. From here, a jaunty montage told in photos wraps up the story, as the three friends explore together and make memories that will last a lifetime, so that when the time comes for them to return to America, both Erin and Brad hug Jono and promise to catch up soon. However, as they settle in for their flight mirroring the start of the movie, Erin nurses something gold in Brad's pocket and questions what it is. Smiling happily, he pulls out the leprechaun's golden shoe buckle and shrugs, saying you can't go on holiday and not bring home a souvenir, while Erin's face falls. Then, as the camera pans up to the overhead luggage compartment, a familiar hand with long nails slips its way out, as the leprechaun delivers one last rhyme about crossing seas and unfinished business. And that's where we'll leave things for now. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave your thoughts, suggestions, or screams of rage in the comments below.